is the open. Que l'on ouvre les portes. Alors, statements by members. Déclaration de député. Honorable député de Pierre.
The honourable member for Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, this is a hard period for the human race. World peace is more a dream than a reality. Extremism is breaking us apart. And all around the world, there is too much fear, too much hatred, and too much violence. But when humanity is in trouble, there is always a glimmer of hope. In this case, Malala. She invited us to openness, to gender equality. She invited us to drop our prejudices and love each other more. We are happy to be able to count Malala Yousafzai as one of ours. We admire her greatly. Standing up and fighting for justice, for the fundamental right to education, and desiring to build a better world is so inspiring. Thank you, Malala, for being a ray of sunshine in the world when we need it so much. Thank you for being one of us.
Honourable member for Cambridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year I participated in the Global Forum for the Prevention of Genocide in Armenia and represented Canada at the Armenian Genocide Remembrance Ceremonies. On April 24th, we honored the memory of more than 1 million Armenians who lost their lives. Preventing atrocities is contingent on recognizing, remembering, and understanding genocides. All nations and peoples must recognize genocide as not a political issue, but a historic one. The victims' memories are desecrated today by the willful ignorance of those who choose to deny these events. Reflecting on genocides including Armenia, Ukraine, Rwanda, Bosnia, Yazidis, and the Holocaust, we must commit ourselves to the obligations that our humanity demands, ensuring genocide is ended. To the Armenian community in Cambridge and across Canada, I stand with you as we proclaim never again.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Before talking about what's happening in my riding, allow me to congratulate you personally for the quality of your speech earlier today, and particularly concerning what you said to her parents. I think it was excellent, and I thank you and congratulate you for that. Now, Mr. Speaker, last weekend, like many MPs, I was in my riding, and I had the pleasure of meeting hundreds of citizens as part of some charitable activities. Whether it's with the Diving Club of Quebec or youth organizations or other organizations who were doing fundraising to help the vulnerable, or organizers of summer camps who are having an annual spaghetti fundraiser, or the Christian community of Saint-Ambroise. Every weekend, I meet determined people who are ready to help others. They are proud Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the honourable member.
The honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
Mr. Speaker, this April 22nd is Earth Day. In recognition, I want to acknowledge a tremendous organization in my riding of Parkdale High Park, Green 13. Green 13 is a collection of residents in my community who work hard every day to raise awareness about the most pressing issue of our generation, climate change. These amazing volunteers dedicate their time to advocating for environmental sustainability and promoting little ways we can all change our behavior to better protect our communities and our planet. Green 13 is so successful, Mr. Speaker, they've actually inspired a sequel, Green 14, in the other half of my riding. So I now have not one but two grassroots groups working hard to protect the environment. Mr. Speaker, I hope that list keeps growing. But I also know that the fight for a greener future will not be won unless we all play our part. This Earth Day and every day, Mr. Speaker, I urge all of us to take up this vital fight against climate change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, this government and this Prime Minister really need to decide whose side they're on. The Canadian government recently gave Bombardier millions of dollars in corporate welfare. In return, the company laid off workers while giving multi-million-dollar bonuses to their executives. The rich get richer and the workers suffer. And this government simply shrugs as if everything is fine. When the court allowed U.S. Steel to walk away from their pension obligations, this government and this Prime Minister simply shrug and say they are engaged. When U.S. Steel is given permission to cut off funding for pensioners' health care benefits, while at the same time sitting on millions of dollars in cash and giving their executives lavish bonuses, this government and this Prime Minister simply shrug and say they are engaged. Well, Mr. Speaker, the workers and pensioners in Hamilton want to know on whose behalf are they engaged. It certainly isn't the pensioners or the workers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Brampton West.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to wish all celebrating in Brampton West, across Canada and around the world, a very happy Vaisakhi. Vaisakhi marks the anniversary of the creation of Khalsa by Guru Gobind Singh Ji and founding of the fundamental principles of equality, unity, selfless service, and social justice, values that we're all proud to share as Canadians. Sikhs arrived in Canada over 100 years ago, and these principles have guided us in building our country. From coast to coast to coast, Sikh Canadians have helped build communities, fought for equality, served in our military, and have made significant contribution to our economic and social fabric. Today, these guiding principles are conserved by the efforts of many Gurdwaras all across Canada. And I would like to thank the Gurdwara Sikh Sangat in my riding of Brampton West in promoting and upholding these values of Sikhism and making me proud not only as a Sikh but also as a Canadian. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
Mr. Speaker, every 3 minutes, cancer picks another fight with a Canadian. That's over 200,000 new cases of cancer diagnosis every year in this country. And those numbers are projected to increase by nearly 40% in 2030, by 2030. Yet, Mr. Speaker, even with these disappointing numbers, the overall cancer survival rate has increased from 35% back in the 1950s to over 60% today, thanks in part to research funded by Daffodil Sales. Yes, April is Daffodil Month. And by making a donation, by buying a daffodil pin, or buying the actual flower, means that you are supporting a long history of helping people with cancer and funding life-saving research, education, and support services. Please support the annual Canadian Cancer Society's April Daffodil campaign. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Louis-Hébert. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Cadet Organizations are the most important youth programs in Canada, and the Cadet Corps of Rochebelle, located in the heart of my riding, is undoubtedly one of the most dynamic such groups in the country. Their motto is challenge, discipline, and unity, and it reflects the values of these young people who come together and build camaraderie through a variety of physical activities. In this 150th anniversary of Canada's Confederation, the Cadet Corps is also celebrating their 60th year. I'm pleased to celebrate with them, and I'd also like to recognize Captain Patrick Bélanger and his team for their warm welcome. I also want to thank the parents and volunteers who helped shape these young cadets into model citizens who make a positive contribution to our society. We're proud of you, cadets. 60 years deserves a celebration. I wish you many more. So happy anniversary to the cadets.
Honourable member for Brampton North.
Month of April is recognized as Cancer Awareness Month. It is also the month in which Vaisakhi, the birth of the Khalsa Panth, is celebrated. Sikh philosophy and teaching stress the importance of noble deeds, selfless giving, and sacrifice. Saving a human life is one of the greatest things one can do, according to Sikhism. Mr. Speaker, many in my riding of Brampton North and across Canada have raised hundreds and thousands of dollars for cancer research, organized runs, and volunteered their time with organizations like the Guru Gobind Singh Children's Foundation and the Sikh Motorcycle Club. In honor of Vaisakhi and Cancer Awareness Month, I encourage all Canadians to continue to fight for a cure through giving back and volunteering your time. Thank you.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, April 12th is known as the Day of Pink. Today is the International Day Against Bullying, Discrimination, Homophobia, Transphobia, and Transmisogyny. Today, communities across the country and across the world unite in celebrating diversity and raising awareness to stop these types of discrimination and all forms of bullying. Discrimination comes in many forms and creates barriers to full participation in our society through bullying, harassment, hate, and violence. In some cases, individuals can be rejected by their families, kicked out of their homes, and pushed out of school as a result of this. No one should be subject to such discrimination. Our nation was built on common values such as tolerance, openness, and diversity, and we must continue to be the model of an inclusive society. We must show future generations that the best way to advance our shared goals is to embrace all members of our human family, regardless of who they are. The message is clear. Anyone can bully. Anyone can be victimized by bullying, but together we can stop it. I invite you to participate in the Day of Pink by tweeting "I celebrate diversity" and hashtag Day of Pink. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, you may have noticed that I'm wearing a daffodil today. It's a symbol of the month of April, and it's also a symbol of the work done by the Canadian Cancer Society to raise awareness, raise funds for research, and support cancer sufferers. Mr. Speaker, we should be proud of the innovative research being done in Canada.
Researchers have been working to block breast cancer with Xantex, normally used for heartburn. Discoveries with pancreatic cancer cells may allow scientists to create drugs to block or reverse the spreading of the disease. New advancements have led to genetic screening, which is less costly, more accessible, and may boost cancer survival rates. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, breakthroughs like these are truly remarkable. I thank everyone in Canada who's working to eradicate cancer because they give us hope. Let's remember that we're stronger together. We can join forces to stop cancer.
Honourable member for Scarborough Agincourt.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank my friend from Cambridge for his earlier comments. And I also stand today as chair of the Canada-Armenia Parliamentary Friendship Group to recognize, along with the Armenian community, April 24th as it commemorates the 102nd anniversary of the Armenian genocide. This day of remembrance pays tribute to the victims and survivors. To this end, we reaffirm our commitment to an inclusive and diverse society while rejecting all forms of intolerance, discrimination, and hatred. April is Genocide Prevention Month, which was led by former MP Brad Butt through his motion 587 and passed by this House in 2015. This acknowledgement of Armenian Genocide Memorial Day is important for all of us to remember. I commend the Armenian community for passing the memory of the Armenian genocide to future generations. If we do not remember the mistakes of the past, we are destined to repeat them. On this solemn occasion, let us renew our commitment to stand for human rights and justice at home and around the world. Bravo.
The Honourable member for Red Deer, Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals wouldn't know the right thing to do if it jumped up and bit them. A few years ago, my private member's Bill 525 received royal assent. This bill protected workers' rights by ensuring that mandatory secret ballot voting was used in the certification and decertification of a union. Shortly after the Liberals took office, they introduced Bill C4. This piece of poorly written legislation sought, among many other things, to remove a worker's right to a secret ballot vote. Clearly, Bill C4 was a regressive attempt by the Liberals to gain favour with union bosses, as it would have made it easier for unions to use intimidation tactics in the workplace during a union drive. Yesterday, the Senate of Canada got it right where the Liberal government got it wrong. I'm pleased to announce that in a 43-34 decision, the Senate voted to amend Bill C4 and keep the provision of a mandatory secret ballot vote in place. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the senators for their leadership on this bill and for protecting the rights of workers across Canada. I would further encourage my colleagues across the way to accept the amendments as presented by the Senate or get rid of this clearly misguided bill altogether.
Hear, hear. Honourable member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, on this International Day of Pink, when Nobel laureate Malala Yousafzai addressed Parliament, we raise awareness to confront homophobia, transphobia, transmisogyny, and all other forms of discrimination and bullying. Aujourd'hui,
today, let's celebrate diversity and inclusion together.
People face discrimination and harassment because they are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, two-spirit, or gender non-conforming. Nous avons toutes et
We all have the ability to celebrate our differences and to oppose any violence, discrimination, and intimidation that we witness in our daily lives.
Whether our actions are symbolic, substantive, or both, standing up and speaking out make all the difference in the world to those who are bullied. I call on everyone in this House to proudly wear pink today and to take a stand against bullying and discrimination every day. Mr. Speaker, it's the least that we can do. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, today in Ottawa we welcome three courageous women: Malala Yousafzai of Pakistan, Leymah Gbowee of Liberia, both recipients of the Nobel Prize, as well as Yanar Mohammed of Iraq, an important advocate of human rights. This is an amazing opportunity for us to celebrate the role women play in promoting peace and security. These things cannot be secured without full respect for human rights.
Also an occasion to remind ourselves of the need to ensure that we walk the talk on feminism and increase funding to implement the Women, Peace and Security agenda. We should also increase our support to women at the grassroots level, which right now stands at only 0.03% of Canada's aid budget. Si on veut vraiment appuyer...
If we really want to support women like Malala, Leymah, and Yanar, we also need to fund their work.
Member for Lethbridge.
Mr. Speaker, the honorary citizenship bestowed upon Malala Yousafzai today is a wonderful testament to this young woman's strength and perseverance. This long-awaited event is the result of our previous government's decision to award her honorary citizenship. It is an honor that is extended to only 5 people previous to her. At a very young age, she is a symbol of determination and hope for young people around the world. I'm extremely proud to see 2 different governments come together across many years and even partisan lines in order to support Malala's work and her message to the world. She exemplifies so much of what it means to be Canadian. Be brave, trust in your convictions, and stand up for those who need support. Today, we honor Malala for her courage, and with sincere hearts, we say thank you.
Hear, hear. Honourable Member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, knowledge is power, and education empowers. Education empowers youth to do better, to be better, to work towards resolving the issues of our time: extremism, climate, health. But it's not easy to fight for the right to education. It takes courage. When Malala faced persecution in her pursuit of an education for herself and those around her, she had 2 choices. She could have bent to the will of the ignorant, but she chose to take a stance to empower those around her. It is an honor to have the Nobel Peace Laureate Malala Yousafzai with us today. Her advocacy for education is a reminder that we all share responsibility in building a better world. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to continue working with the Minister of International Development and La Francophonie on empowerment through education in Canada and abroad. Now more than ever, the world needs more Canada. Thank you.
Colleagues, there are many people who assist us in doing our work here on Parliament Hill, and if you don't mind, today I'd like to note maintenance people who helped set up our committee meetings and all kinds of things, who worked late last night setting up for today's special event, and who work so hard for us every day. Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, since they took power, the Liberals are betraying the middle class, taxing electricity, groceries and gas, tax on public transit, tax on beer and wine, local businesses, for fisheries, for camping, passports, and everything that requires a federal permit. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister tell us what he's going to tax next? Or is this finally done? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are very proud of our choices when it comes to assistance for the middle class. We have increased taxes for the richest 1% and reduced taxes for the middle class. We put in place a benefit for children, which helps nine families out of 10 and will lift many children out of poverty. Each day, Mr. Speaker, we work for the middle class and for those people who are working hard to join it. We are going to continue to make choices that will help people across the country. Leader of the Opposition.
Truth is, the Prime Minister just can't help himself from nickel and diming regular Canadians. First, he went after their Saturday night by taxing beer, wine, Uber, bus passes. Now he's going after their May-long weekend camping trip, too. He's hiking fees on a fishing license and even on campsites, Mr. Speaker, and those fees are going to keep going up forever. Mr. Speaker, the middle class and those working hard to join it deserve some rest and relaxation once in a while. So why is the Prime Minister taxing their time off, too?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I agree entirely with the member opposite that Canadians love to get outdoors and enjoy our wilderness, which is why I'm so proud that this government has made it free access to Canada's national parks for our 150th birthday. Excellent. The opportunity for millions of Canadians to get out to discover the extraordinary wild spaces across Canada, to see the amazing parks we have, which is something I know that all Canadians all members of this House will encourage Canadians to go discover our national parks this summer.
Honourable Leader for the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, when hardworking Canadians get time off for a family vacation, they're often on a budget, and that means that many times they're taking a modest, occasional family camping trip. It's affordable, and it's relaxing, and it's fun. But for some reason, the Prime Minister wants to make it less affordable and less fun. While taxpayers are on the hook for $130,000 for the Prime Minister's private island getaway, fees are going up at campsites all across the country. How is this fair?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am tremendously proud to remind Canadians that this year access to our national parks is absolutely free. We know that for our 150th birthday, encouraging Canadians to get out and discover the amazing beauty of our natural parks, our historic sites, is going to be really important to create the kind of pride in our country and share with our kids the extraordinary natural beauty for future generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Order.
Mr. Speaker, I introduced a bill that ensures judges are trained to deal with sexual assault trial. Fixing this problem is something that is necessary and it's widely supported. Too many rape victims do not report the violence they experience because they have no confidence in the justice system. I understood from our conversations and the votes of his caucus that the Prime Minister was committed to passing this legislation, but now I'm hearing otherwise. So I'd like to give the Prime Minister a chance today to be clear. With a simple yes or no, will the Prime Minister and his caucus pass this bill and support rape victims?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as everyone in this House knows, I take very seriously the responsibility of society to protect victims, survivors of sexual assault, to give them processes through our justice system that is going to give them the right support. But as everyone in this House also knows, I respect Parliament and the work done in committees, and I encourage the committees to continue to do their study on this important issue so we can figure out the...
Order. Order, order. Order. If members have arguments to make, they should save it so we can all hear them when they have the floor. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has a few more seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I look forward to the discussions being had at committee right now on the best way to protect survivors within our justice system, and can emphasize again that we've put forward a strategy on gender-based violence and have even put money towards training of judges as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Legal Expert.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP and other parties support it. There's even Chief Justices that have come forward to support this. Lawyers support it. Judges support it. Academics support it. Advocates for change support it. Mr. Speaker, and frontline sexual assault supporters definitely support it. And you know who else supports it? Women across this country that want to have more confidence in our justice system. The Prime Minister talks the talks of a feminist, but I'd like to know how could he possibly defend the status quo?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, not only do we know how important it is to ensure that survivors of sexual assault have strong access to justice, we also need to make sure that our judiciary looks more like Canada. That's why we're proud that 60% of our appointment to judges' positions at the federal level were actually women. That's up from about 35% under the previous government. The fact is there's a lot of things that we can and must do to improve the way our justice system treats survivors of sexual assault, and I'm very pleased that this committee is looking at many ways of doing it, including the private member's bill brought forward by this member.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, some time ago a Liberal candidate said, and I quote, "Omnibus bills, I wouldn't use them at all. Period." Who said that? The current Prime Minister. The Budget Implementation Act changes 30 existing acts ranging from immigration to justice and protection for navigation. At the same time, our infrastructure is being privatized. Tolls are being put in place. Cuts to the public transit tax credit. Keeping loopholes for CEOs. Why are the Liberals favoring the richest people in this country? The Honourable Prime Minister. The previous government used those bills to prevent debate in this House, omnibus bills, to limit the capability of members to look at what was in the budget by putting forth a number of measures in the same bill. What we committed to do was put in a budget bill items that are dealt with in the budget, and they're part of the economic plan for this country, and that is exactly what we're doing. We will not be abusing omnibus legislation like the previous government did.
Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley. Order.
Speaker, today I think we should try to bring together two people that have clearly become estranged from one another. Mr. Speaker, it's time for an intervention. Not so long ago, the man from Papineau said this about omnibus bills, and I quote, "I wouldn't use them. Period." Well, that seems pretty clear. And he also said, "The kitchen sink approach here to me is a real worry." Yeah, me too. Yet the Prime Minister has just dropped a 300-page omnibus bill on Canadians. So my question for the Prime Minister is, whatever happened to that guy from Papineau?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I saw for many years the previous government use omnibus legislation as a way of avoiding debate, as a way of putting everything into a piece of legislation, whether or not it had links to it. A budget bill contains sweep.
Order. We need to hear the answer. We have to hear something out of order is said. Members need to listen. Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has 20 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Any budget bill contains a broad range of provisions that will improve economic outcomes for Canadians. We'll touch on a broad range of issues because Canadians want to know that their government is dealing with a broad scope of the challenges that Canadians are facing on the economic level. That's exactly why we're proud of all the elements in this budget that are being put forward to help the middle class and those working hard to join it. Thank you, Mr.
Order. The Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
Every budget contains a broad range of provisions. I didn't think I'd see him quoting Stephen Harper on the floor. I'm sorry, but by the Prime Minister's own definition, this is an omnibus bill. And what's the word for that? Oh yeah, hypocrisy. This bill changes the PBO, a critical watchdog that this Prime Minister once said, and I quote, "the independent strength to offer the check and balance to a government." Well, this Prime Minister's omnibus bill completely guts that independent strength of the PBO. That's something from a guy who used to admit that checks and balances were essential because, and I'll quote again, "the Prime Minister with a majority is more powerful than any Western leader." So why is this Prime Minister gutting the power to hold him to account?
The Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are proud of the following through in our commitment to strengthen the independence of the Parliamentary Budget Officer, to make them a full Officer of Parliament, accountable to the Speakers of the House and the Senate and not to the Librarian of Parliament, to give them greater tools to be able to access information, to answer for the questions parliamentarians may ask, and even, Mr. Speaker, at the request of political parties, to evaluate political platforms, to make sure that Canadians know what they're getting when they vote for someone.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, on the pretext of making the PBO more independent, the government wants to attach or tie his hands. And what we're seeing in C-44 is very worrisome. So I have three questions. Will the PBO conserve the freedom to initiate investigations based on changes, or will he be subjected to an annual plan? Will parliamentarians still be able to call for investigations on subject of their choice? And finally, will ministers and departments be required by law to collaborate and provide information to the PBO? We're talking about the quality of our democratic life that depends on this. Three very serious questions for the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I understand the concerns and enthusiasm expressed by the member opposite, because we too, when we were in opposition, needed the PBO, needed him to be independent to answer our questions. And thanks to this legislation, thanks to this bill, you will have more access to an Officer of Parliament through the PBO, who will be able to do what is expected of him in that position. I would like to remind the Right Honourable Prime Minister to direct his comments through the Chair.
Lac Saint-Jean.
The Honourable Member for Lac Saint-Jean.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, during his dream vacation, the Prime Minister admitted to using a private helicopter, which runs counter to the rules. After that, he said it was the only means of going to the island. Now we've learned that one of his employees had 400 pounds of equipment to take to the island, something that's also problematic. Now there's an investigation undertaken by the Commissioner of Ethics. Now, what will he say? What about an employee taking 400 pounds of equipment for a vacation? Mr. Speaker, it was a family vacation with a long-term friend. As I've said in the past, I'm very keen to work with the Commissioner to answer all questions that she may have. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Lac Saint-Jean. Well, Mr. Speaker, this morning the Prime Minister referred to Malala's humility. He should have done the same thing and said that Prime Minister Harper is the one who had made the initial decision to acknowledge her and recognize her as an honorary citizen. Now, $150,000 to the taxpayer for a private family vacation. That is not worthy of a Prime Minister. Can the Prime Minister tell us why it cost $135,000? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I was very pleased to welcome Malala as an honorary citizen here in Ottawa and to invite her to address Parliament. And I do want to underscore that she is an honorary citizen. It is because there was a unanimous vote held in the House and everyone wanted Malala to become a Canadian citizen.
For Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, nearly 10% of my city is out of work, and they're struggling with the emotional stress of trying to make ends meet. So when the Prime Minister stands in this place and tells these people he did nothing wrong by spending hundreds of thousands of their tax dollars on a personal vacation, he disrespects them. But my question is this, Mr. Speaker. When he stands and tries to spin that he somehow has the right to flagrantly fly above the law, does he think that Canadian taxpayers are fools, or does he think that they're foolish enough to buy that garbage?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said a number of times, this was a personal family vacation with an old friend, and we are happy to work with the Parliament, with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to answer any questions that she may have. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, we're proud of the things we've been doing for the middle class and those working hard to join it, which included lowering taxes on the middle class, raising on the wealthiest 1%, despite that member and all her colleagues voting against raising taxes on the wealthy.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, tens of thousands of middle-class Canadians wish that they could take a vacation with their old friends, but they can't because of his taxes and him spending their taxpayer dollars on his personal vacation. Worse off, trying to explain why he broke the law. He's blaming the RCMP for his poor judgment and his poor choices. Are you kidding me, Mr. Speaker? When is this Prime Minister going to stand up and tell Canadians that he's sorry?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I certainly don't think you're kidding anyone in this House, Mr. Speaker. The fact is we will continue to work with the Ethics and Conflict of Interest Commissioner to answer any questions she may have. In the meantime, we will continue to stay focused on lowering taxes on the middle class, raising them on the wealthiest 1%, delivering a Canada Child benefit that helps 9 out of 10 Canadian families, and will lift hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty right across this country.
Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister doesn't want to seem to answer direct questions, so let's try again. The Prime Minister was the one who told Canadians in January his only option was to take this helicopter. Yesterday, he put the blame on the RCMP. So Canadians are confused. Could he clear this up for Canadians? Is he willing to table the documentation, whether it's emails, written advice, that shows that the RCMP told him to break the law?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said many times, I'm happy to work with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to answer all questions she may have, so she can determine that indeed all the rules were appropriately followed. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, we know that being ready to work with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner is extremely important, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Honourable Opposition House Leader.
This is about being honest with Canadians. Either the Prime Minister was misleading Canadians in January or he is now. Now, he's talking about talking to the Ethics Commissioner, so I have two questions for him. What has he told the Ethics Commissioner? Oh, the RCMP made me do it, or it was my only option. Yeah. And has he met with the Ethics Commissioner already?
Here he is. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're happy to engage on an ongoing basis with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. This is important because Canadians need to have confidence in the people who wield public trust, and that's exactly why I'm so pleased to be working with her.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, does the Prime Minister think it's important to tell the truth? Not just to the Commissioner of Ethics, but here in this Parliament, in front of all parliamentarians. And if yes, then why? Why did he say that a helicopter was the only way of getting to the private island of his friend the Aga Khan?
Yes.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said, I'm happy to work with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. As you know, the RCMP makes determinations with respect to how the Prime Minister travels and his safety.
Go on.
Mr. Speaker, in case he doesn't realize, the Prime Minister isn't rehearsing lines for a play. He's answering questions about whether or not he broke the law. So what we want to know is what he's going to tell the Ethics Commissioner. He can say it in this place as well. Was the private helicopter that he chose to get on the only way to get to the island? Yes or no?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've answered this question a number of times in this place, and what I continue to work on is focusing on the things that matter to Canadians, whether it's lowering taxes for the middle class, raising them on the wealthiest 1%, whether it's putting forward a budget with historic investments in infrastructure that are going to make it easier for Canadians to get to and from work, make sure that there's proper investments in a national housing strategy, the kinds of things that Canadians talk to me about whenever I leave this House and go across the country. Canadians want to know how this government is working for them, and we're happy to be talking about that.
Honourable Member for Parry Sound. Order.
This is a serious matter.
Order. The Honourable Member for Cape Breton Council doesn't get a freebie, I'm sorry. I'd ask him to restrain himself, along with whoever it is he's talking to over on the opposite side, down in the far corner. The Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, this is a serious issue involving the Prime Minister's judgment. He goes to Billionaire Island. He says the only way to get there is on a private helicopter, which is completely contrary to the rules of the transport of the Prime Minister. The taxpayers are on the hook for this kind of money, and he will not answer questions in the House from parliamentarians. He is disrespecting Parliament. He's disrespecting the taxpayers. When is he going to come clean?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, indeed, any ethics question is a serious one. That's why I'm so happy to work with the Conflict of Ethics Commissioner and answer any questions that she has on this issue. As we continue, Mr. Speaker, we continue to be focused as a government on the things that Canadians talk to us about in our constituencies and across the country, whether it's continuing to lower their taxes as we already have, or investing in the kind of strong future for our students and our workers who are looking at the changing job market and needing the support of a government that's actively helping them find new opportunities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, I hope the Prime Minister can answer this question. Yesterday, his Minister of Transport went out to the public, said that there's a national security threat involving our airlines, won't tell passengers or Canadians what the nature of the threat is, won't say where it is coming from, won't say how they can protect themselves against the threat, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister and his government is showing the sensitivity of United Airlines. When are they going to come clean and tell passengers how they can protect themselves and what the nature of the threat is?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians know, we take the security of Canadians and of all air travellers extremely seriously. That's why we work with our police and security agencies, with our international partners and with our airlines to determine how best to keep air travellers safe. And I can reassure Canadians that we always do everything necessary to ensure that Canadians are safe while at the same time protecting their charter rights and freedoms. That's what we will continue to do every step of the way, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Well, Mr. Speaker, 3 more workers continue to work at Trudeau Airport despite having their clearances revoked due to security concerns. To say that Canadians are shocked that these employees were previously cleared to work in secured areas would be an understatement. While the Prime Minister's response on this issue is tone deaf, all that the Transport Minister is now offering are vague assurances and a secret plan. How can Canadians trust these Liberals to keep our airports secure?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The safety and security of Canadians and indeed all travellers is extremely important to this government. That's why we work every day to ensure that we're doing everything we can to keep Canadians safe. Our security agencies and police agencies work carefully every day to ensure that people are safe as they travel through our airports and elsewhere. And that's why also we're moving forward on a committee of parliamentarians that will have oversight over our national security agencies and police agencies to ensure that both our charter rights are protected and that all our agencies are doing everything they can to keep Canadians safe at all times, which they are.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. The Prime Minister's words show that he isn't aware of everything. It took a JE report to in fact disclose that there were some potentially radicalized people working at Trudeau Airport. Yesterday, 3 people had their access cards revoked, and what's incredible, Mr. Speaker, is that the Prime Minister knows that some of these employees continued to work at the airport, and that's unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. When will the Prime Minister stop taking us for fools, tell us what's really happening, and take real steps to reassure Canadians? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, everyone in this House wants to ensure and make sure that Canadians are safe, and that is why we work together on a daily basis to ensure that our services, or security and information services, do their utmost to protect Canadians. I'm also very happy that there will be a parliamentary committee, a committee of parliamentarians rather, that will oversee the actions of our security agencies in order to confirm that, yes, we are respecting people's charter rights and keeping Canadians safe every day in our airports and communities.
Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Mr. Speaker, enough with the evasion, enough with the talking points. This is a direct question to the Prime Minister. Does he feel that he deserves a criminal record for having smoked marijuana? Yes or no?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're moving forward on legalizing marijuana for 2 reasons. One, because the current regime is failing our kids. Right now, kids underage have easier access to marijuana than in any country around the world. We have higher per capita use by underage Canadians than of any other country. We want to make it more difficult for kids to access marijuana, and that's why we are going to legalize and control marijuana. We also want to remove the billions of dollars from criminal organizations and street gangs that they use to commit more crimes.
Honourable member for Essex.
So I guess there are different rules for the Prime Minister and the rest of Canada. Yesterday, the Trade Committee, the Minister for International Trade admitted that he has not had any talks with China about steel dumping, despite having embarked on a potential free trade agreement with them. The Liberals also have no timeline on when they will finally deliver on long-awaited changes to Canada's trade remedy rules. Canada's steel industry deserves leadership from this government. So I have one simple question. Will the Prime Minister pick up the phone, call his counterpart in China, and ask them to stop unfair steel dumping in our country?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can go one better. I was in China last year and actually brought it up directly with the Chinese leadership. The issue of Canadian steel and the prevalence and the dumping of Chinese steel is one that has concerned this government for a long time, and that's why we've taken tangible, concrete steps in engaging with the Chinese at the highest levels, and why we continue to work with our American partners to ensure that North American steel is supported and protected.
Honourable member for West Nova.
Mr. Speaker, my riding of West Nova relies heavily on the fishing industry, which forms the basis of our rural economy and our identity.
To provide us with details on how the new Atlantic Fisheries Fund helps support the fishing industry in my home province of Nova Scotia and throughout Atlantic Canada.
The right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the fish and seafood sector is integral to the economic and social fabric of thousands of coastal and Indigenous communities in Canada, generating over $2.3 billion a year for the Canadian economy. Notre gouvernement réfléchit.
Our government is looking toward the future of this industry and taking the necessary steps to transform it and support innovation, and that's why we recently announced the creation of a fund for the Atlantic fisheries to the tune of $325 million.
To increase employment opportunities for middle-class Canadians in coastal communities.
The member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, we already know that Canadians are outraged at this Prime Minister spending now over $133,000 to take a personal vacation to Billionaire Island, and he reluctantly admitted to reporters after pressing that he took a helicopter, the Aga Khan's private helicopter, to get to Bell Island. Now, we know from documents that have been released that this simply isn't true because a float plane was hired by the Government of Canada to get some staffers there. Now, Mr. Speaker, my question to the Prime Minister is clear. He says he's going to talk to the Ethics Commissioner, but why won't he just tell Canadians why he is making this story up when we know that he could have taken an alternate route? Why doesn't he just tell us the truth?
The right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Steve, this was a family vacation to visit an old-time friend, and as I've said, we're working with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to answer any of these questions. I think it's important that we do just that, and that's what we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister keeps saying he's willing to meet with the Ethics Commissioner on his trip to the Aga Khan's Island. Now, he's been under this investigation by the Commissioner for over 3 months. So my question is simple. Has he actually met with the Ethics Commissioner? And if he has, how many times? And if not, why hasn't he? And when will he?
The right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, as I've said, I'm happy to work with the Ethics Commission on an ongoing basis to answer any questions she may have. And again, Mr. Speaker, this government remains focused on the things that Canadians are talking to us about every day right across the country. Whether it's how we're going to secure retirement for their aging parents, we talk about strengthening the CPP and increasing the GIS. Whether it's giving opportunities for young people, we talk about increasing the Canada student grants by 50% and giving young people better access to post-secondary education. Whether it's $2 billion into research and university research facilities to ensure that we're innovating for the future.
Order. The Honourable Member for Lanark Frontenac Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the Prime Minister promised he'd be answering every question on Wednesdays, we had no idea that it would sound like this. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal election platform contains only 2 commitments regarding the standing orders, only 2. One of which is this gem, quote, "We will change the standing orders to end omnibus bills." Now, yesterday the Finance Minister tabled a 308-page Budget Implementation Act, which makes amendments to more than 20 different statutes. It is the very model of a modern major omnibus. So my question to the Prime Minister is this. He insists that the opposition is not allowed to veto his campaign commitments about the standing orders.
The right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the abuse of omnibus legislation under the previous government was egregious and something that we committed to take action on. And that's why in the legislation we put forward, including in the budget legislation we put forward, everything is related to the budget. Everything is thematically linked. Now, on top of that, Mr. Speaker, what we're proposing in terms of changes to the standing orders will allow you, Mr. Speaker, to group into thematic groupings any piece of legislation to allow different committees to be able to study it better. That is the way, one of the ways in which we can make this House work better if we work.
The honourable member for Banff Airdrie.
Well, can you spell hypocrisy, Mr. Speaker? I'll tell you. Let me fill the Prime Minister in on something else, though. Parliament belongs to Canadians and not to him. And it won't be changed to suit his selfish needs. So the Canadians certainly see through that Prime Minister's blatant disrespect for our democracy. They will simply not stand for the Liberals ramming through substantive changes to how their democracy works, especially when they're changes that will remove any ability to hold him accountable. So will the Prime Minister drop his me attitude and actually respect Canadian democracy for a change?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'm pleased to hear the member's passion for reforming our democracy, and I'm excited to get all input from members of this House in how we can improve and modernize the functioning of this House. That's exactly what we're looking forward to, engaging with all members in this House in a substantive conversation on how to better serve our constituents and all Canadians with rigorous debate that allows the opposition to hold the government to account and allows government to continue to fulfill the ambitious election promises that we made.
The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, the CCPA's report on poverty and equity among British Columbian seniors exposed a dark truth about prescription drug costs. A disturbing number of British Columbians are not filling their prescriptions because they cannot afford the high cost. With little in the budget for seniors and with CETA around the corner, which will hike up these prices, the government must reduce prescription costs. Will this government leverage our combined buying power so that together we can negotiate lower drug prices?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to confirm that that's exactly what we signed an agreement to do with the BC government and indeed with all governments across this country. We will work together to reduce the cost of prescription drugs, and I was pleased to have the government of BC be part of this, and we're moving forward on doing exactly that. How our seniors are protected is extremely important to us. That's why we increased the GIS for seniors by 10%, for our most vulnerable single seniors by 10%, why we lowered the age of retirement from 67 to 65. We're going to continue to work for our seniors, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member opposite for her important question and her support.
For Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Coastal communities have been calling for action to protect waterways from abandoned vessels for decades. Right. The 6-month deadline on the government's latest promise is just 2 weeks away, and the Transport Minister's answer yesterday was old news with no impact. Sunday, coastal communities passed an emergency resolution to support my abandoned vessel legislation. Will the Prime Minister support our bill to protect our treasured coast and so communities can stop carrying this burden?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
I was pleased to be out in BC a number of months ago with the Minister of Transport and the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans to announce a historic oceans protection plan that is going to demonstrate world-class protection of our oceans, including empowering coastal communities to have the tools and the support they need to be those first responders that they so often are in situations of distress and accidents. We know that investing in protection for our oceans makes sense both for the environment and for the Canadians who make their living on the ocean. That's why we're so serious about moving forward on a world-class ocean protections plan.
Kirk, the honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to implement Magnitsky-style legislation so Canada can quickly sanction corrupt foreign officials, but he has done absolutely nothing. Last week, the Assad regime perpetrated another war crime. Both Russia and Iran support the Syrian regime. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister has spent his time in office normalizing relationships with Russia, dropping sanctions against Iran, and stopped bombing in Syria with our CF-18s. Last night, the Senate passed the Sergei Magnitsky bill, S-226. Will the Prime Minister quit cozying up to dictators and despots and support this bill?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'm proud of the work our Foreign Affairs Minister has done in Brussels last week, in Italy this week, with our international partners on holding the Syrian regime to account. On the issue of Russia, I think the Russian government has a very serious choice to make. Whether it continues to support the war crime committing, bloodthirsty regime of Bashar al-Assad, or whether they stand with the international community in condemning those actions and moving forward in a real and tangible way towards peace for the Syrian people.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Foreign Affairs Committee tabled a unanimous report urging the government to not only update and enforce sanctions, but to expand them to include, in Sergei Magnitsky's name, gross violations of the sort barbarically committed by Syria last week with Russian complicity. Now, the government has lamely suggested it needs more time to study the report. That's somewhat disingenuous given the PM's support for a Magnitsky Act 2 years ago. So my question to the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, is, will he now act?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
One of the things that Canadians have appreciated is our engagement back on the world stage in multilateral forums that recognizes that Canada is most effective when we work alongside like-minded partners and act in concert to put pressure on various bad actors in the international order. That's why we're working so carefully with our colleagues and allies around the world to ensure that we are holding governments like the Russian government to account on the choices they make and ensuring that the sanctions we bring forward are the most impactful possible from an international standpoint.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, your Russian friends just vetoed a Security Council resolution against Syria. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Development Minister tried to justify the misguided restoration of education funding to the hate-infected UN Relief and Works Agency with an undated quote of an Israeli general. She seems unaware that the general's boss, Defense Minister Lieberman, has just asked the United States to stop funding UNRWA because it continues to teach hate and demonize Israel. Mr. Speaker, can't the Liberals find another way to deliver aid?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we believe that constructive engagement on the world stage is what Canadians expect, and our re-engaging with UNRWA is actually allowing us to hold to closer account the choices and the funding that is delivered through that mechanism. We know that Canadian pressure and Canadian being part of UNRWA allows us to ensure that the help is going to where it's needed and it's not funding or creating negative consequences for Israel or for anyone else.
I would ask the honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, to restrain himself. I know he's very interested in these issues. And now the honourable member for Dorval, Lachine LaSalle.
Monsieur le Président, nous avons... Mr. Speaker, we were honored today to have Malala Yousafzai here in the House. She's a shining example of courage and perseverance. Her impassioned plea for girls' education has inspired millions of people all over the world. Can the Prime Minister take this opportunity to explain the emphasis Canada puts on girls' education all around the world? Thank you. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague from Dorval, Lachine LaSalle, for her question. Our government constantly stresses the importance of education for girls. We want to reduce child marriages and unwanted pregnancies. Last week, $334 million were earmarked for aid for education. That's 9% of our official development assistance. We're also implementing the 2030 agenda to improve quality education for girls.
White-Rock.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals are sending $250 million to China for the Asian Infrastructure Bank. Canadian taxpayers will be liable for $1.3 billion if these projects default. The Liberals claim the bank is a good way to finance development projects in the poorest countries. But Canada already funds these types of projects through Global Affairs Canada. So why are the Liberals duplicating a process that already exists and sending taxpayer dollars to China instead of building infrastructure and creating jobs right here in Canada?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we were proud that in Budget 2017 we highlighted historic amounts of investment in infrastructure right across this country. The bridges, roads, public transit system, social housing, the impact on Canadians right across this country is going to be massive. Indeed, Canada has developed over the years a tremendous level of expertise in infrastructure investments, whether it's through our pension funds or elsewhere, and participating in infrastructure investments all around the world makes good sense for Canadian know-how and for Canadian investors.
Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Speaker, a political decision was made in the Office of the Justice Minister to suppress 12,000 pages of police evidence documenting the rape, the torture and abuse of children at St. Anne's Residential School in Fort Albany. Justice officials trashed the legal proceedings and the credibility of survivors and fought to have legitimate cases thrown out. So to the Prime Minister of this country, will he instruct his Justice Minister to end the cover-up and turn over the memo so we can find out who in her office is responsible? And will he ask her why? Why are they justice to survivors of this brutal institution?
Order. I'm sorry, but the last about 8 seconds of that were cut off before they should have been. I ask the honourable member for Timmins, James Bay to give that last sentence again, if he doesn't mind.
Well, it's a simple question to the Prime Minister. Will he ask his Justice Minister why they're so determined to deny justice to the survivors of that brutal institution? It's a simple question.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no relationship is more important to this government than the relationship with Indigenous peoples, and that's why we're working so hard, both to invest historic amounts of money, $8.4 billion in our first budget, billions more in this most recent budget, to begin the long work of creating opportunities and parity for Indigenous peoples across this country. I'm extraordinarily proud of the work our Justice Minister is doing on this file and many other files, and I stand by her in the great work that she's doing.
The honourable member for Laurentides-Labelle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Reliable broadband internet access is very important in today's economy. In remote and rural areas, including those in my riding of Laurentides-Labelle, there's a lack of infrastructure to support adequate broadband service. I'm excited about the implementation of the Connect to Innovate program to address this issue. Can the Prime Minister please provide an update to this House on this important issue for rural Canadians across Canada? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Laurentides-Labelle for his question and the tireless work he does on rural issues. For rural residents, broadband internet access is very important. With Connect to Innovate, we'll be investing up to $500 million over the next 3 years to provide broadband internet access.
It's all across the country, getting onto their mobile phones, accessing their internet, turning on their TVs to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, which start tonight. And I know that everyone across this country will join me in rooting for the Montreal Canadiens over the Maple Leaf, over the New York.
Now we're getting into dangerous territory.
No, member for Montmagny-Lillet, order.
In the House, I know the Prime Minister should realize that.
No, member for Montmagny-Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the matter of courtroom delays, the minister is trying to buy time by announcing meetings with her provincial counterparts. But if she just read the newspaper, she'd see that they're putting the blame squarely on her. Because the fact is that the ball is in her court. The Federal Judicial Advisory Committee for Quebec East has been vacant for a year and a half. None of the 7 seats has been filled. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister explain to us how the minister is going to appoint anyone to the bench when the committee is still non-existent? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. We've set up a new process for appointing judges so that we've been able to appoint 70% women, whereas the previous government's record was 35%. That's a result that we're very proud of. And there are 163 judicial appointments in Quebec, and there are only 6 that remain vacant. Those appointments will be made soon. We're taking this seriously. We're doing the job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We were all moved enormously and inspired by the words of Malala Yousafzai in this place just hours ago. So my question to the Prime Minister is in her words. Will he make girls' education a central theme of the upcoming G7 presidency? Will he use influence of Canada to help fill the global education funding gap? Will Canada offer to host the upcoming replenishment of the Global Partnership for Education? And will Canada prioritize 12 years of school for every refugee child?
Okay, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it was a tremendous honour today to welcome Malala Yousafzai into this House, and I agree with the member opposite that it was a historic moment that challenges us all to do more and to be more. I can assure all members of this House that next year in our G7 presidency, there will be a strong emphasis on gender equality and opportunity for women and girls across the world and here at home, including an emphasis on education. I look forward to working with the Global Partnership on Education to ensure that we're investing properly in education right around the world, specifically for girls. And I know that ensuring K-12 education for all girls around the world is one of the paths forward to creating peace and prosperity around the world, opportunity for all, economic growth for our countries and for the developing world. That's what
I wish to inform the House of an administrative error that occurred with regard to Bill C-22, an act to establish the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians and to make consequential amendments to certain acts. Les députés se rappelleront.
Members may recall that the House studied a number of motions at report stage. On March 20th, 2017, the House adopted some of those motions and rejected others. One of the rejected motions was motion number 7, moved by the Honourable Member for Victoria, which was intended to delete Clause 31 of the bill.
In the bill as amended at report stage with further amendments and eventually adopted the bill at third reading on April 4, 2017.
As is the usual practice following passage at third reading, House officials prepared a parchment version of the bill and transmitted this parchment to the Senate. Due to an administrative error, the version of the bill that was transmitted to the other place was prepared as if Motion 7 had been adopted and Clause 31 had been deleted, with the renumbering of another clause in the bill as a result. Unfortunately, the mistake was not detected before the bill was sent to the other place.
I wish to reassure the House that this error was strictly administrative in nature and occurred after third reading was given to Bill C-22. The proceedings which took place in this House and the decisions made by the House with respect to Bill C-22 remain entirely valid. The records of the House relating to this bill, are complete and accurate. Toutefois, les documents.
However, the documents relating to Bill C-22 that were sent to the other place were not an accurate reflection of the House's decisions.
Speaker Milliken addressed a similar situation in a ruling given on November 22, 2001, and found on page 7455 of debates. My predecessor also dealt with a similar situation in a statement made on September 15, 2014, and found on page 7239 of debates. Guided by these precedents, similar steps have been undertaken in this case. First, once this discrepancy was detected, House officials immediately communicated with their counterparts in the Senate to set about resolving it. Next, I have instructed the acting clerk and his officials to take the necessary steps to rectify this error and to ensure that the other place has a corrected copy of Bill C-22, which reflects the proceedings which occurred in this House. Thus, a revised version of the bill will be transmitted to the other place through the usual administrative procedures of Parliament. Finally, I have asked that the as passed at third reading version of the bill be reprinted. The Senate will, of course, make its own determination about how it proceeds with Bill C-22 in light of this situation. I wish to reassure members that steps have been taken to ensure that similar errors, rare though they may be, do not reoccur. I thank honourable members for their attention. J'ai l'honneur de faire savoir.
I have the honor to inform the House that messages have been received from the Senate informing this House that the Senate has passed the following bills to which the concurrence of the House is desired. Bill S-226, an act to provide for the taking of restrictive measures in respect of foreign nationals responsible for gross violations of internationally recognized human rights, and to make related amendments to the Special Economic Measures Act and the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act.
Projet de loi S-231.
Bill S-231, an act to amend the Canada Evidence Act and the Criminal Code, Protection of Journalistic Sources. Bill S-233, an act to amend the Customs Act and the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, Presentation and Reporting Requirements.
It being 4:15 p.m., pursuant to order made Monday, April 3rd, 2017, the House stands adjourned until tomorrow at 10 a.m., pursuant to Standing Order 24-1.